is the same report. We are only translating it in English. International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement, IPCSL, Election Observation Mission. Preliminary statement of the Election Observation Mission for February 25th, 2023 presidential, senatorial, and legislative elections in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Abuja, February 23. Introduction. The Electoral Observation Mission of the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement is in the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the accreditations of the National Authority represented by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to observe the February 25th, 2023 presidential, legislative, and senatorial election. The mission was led by Ambassador Colonel Johannes M. Makovia, the African coordinators of the organization, based in Florida in the United States. The delegations of the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement is made up of more than 100 observers from 13 countries. The delegation has been in Nigeria since February 18, 2023, and the election observers are deployed in all the 36 states of the country, as announced to the press at the beginning of the election week. The mission is composed of officials from election management bodies, members of civil society, and independent experts. The mission was preceded by a visit to the Independent National Electoral Commission on Monday, February 18, 2023. This statement presents the finding up to the end of the vote count at the polling station and recommendations of the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement for future election. Therefore, this statement does not cover the compilation and transmission of result phase. A more detailed report that will elaborate on these findings and recommendations for future electoral process will be issued at a later date for the benefit of Nigerian authority, INEC, and other stakeholders in electoral processes. Mission, objective, and methodologies. The ultimate objective of the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement is to independently, objectively, and impartially assess the integrity, credibility, and transparency of February 25th, 2023 Nigerian presidential, senatorial, and legislative elections. The mission assessed the presidential election in accordance with the national legal framework governing the organization of election in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and sub-regional, regional, and international instruments govern elections, including the United Nations Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 2012 African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, the OAU/AU Declarations on the Principles Governing Democratic Election in Africa, the Principle for the Management, Monitoring, and Observation of Election, abbreviated as PEMA. Upon his arrival, which is the led mission in Abuja, Ambassador Johannes Makovia, head of mission, met with the country authority as well as some head of observation mission present in Nigeria. During a briefing and orientation session, the observed were briefed on the current socio-political context and on the electoral environment and preparations. In addition, observers were trained by the mission on the best practice and methodologies of the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement in election observations, as well as on the principle of international observation and evaluation of democratic election. The International Police Chaplain deployed its observers in Lagos, in Abuja, in the entire 6 geopolitical zones of the country, namely the Northwest, Northeast, North Central, Southwest, Southeast, and South-South. The observer met with stakeholders active in their area of deployment and observe voting and counting operations. On election day, mission observers equipped with touchscreen tablets and laptop observe the opening, voting, closing, and counting of votes in the various polling units in their area of deployment. Upon their return to the Nigerian Capital Territory, which is Abuja, the team, in a debriefing session, reported their observation to the mission leadership. 2. Political and legal contest. The presidential, senatorial, and legislative elections of February 25, 2023 constitute a crucial stage in the democratic evolutions of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and are taking place in a more or less tense socio-political context. The terrorist threats remain high in the north, the northeast, and south of the country. For several years now, several Nigerians have been kidnapped. Crime options perpetrated by groups of armed individuals, Boko Haram, and unidentified groups. Youth unemployment and overall growth of economic activities remain major challenge that the next president of the Fifth Republic, senators, and members of the House of Representatives will have to face. The legal framework for the February 25th triple election is primarily provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Elections and Referendum Act. In addition, there are the various decisions taken by INEC by virtue of its regulatory power. The IPCSL Election Observation Mission notes that the legal framework is generally in line with international norms and standards of election. 3. Voting date observation. 1. Opening of polling station. The International Police Chaplain deployed 178 observers on election day and visited 2,297 polling stations throughout the country. 6% of polling stations open on time. 60% of polling stations open on time, which is 8:30 a.m., while 34% open late due to late installations of equipment. Overall, polling staff respected the procedure for opening the polls in accordance with the electoral law. 2. Election materials. Election materials are prescribed by the Electoral Code of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The International Police Chaplain Mission notes that in most cases, election material delivered the day before by the INEC were not available in sufficient quantity and on time at the polling station. 3. Secrecy of voting. The electoral law stipulates that voting is secret and that each polling station has at least one voting booth. The mission observed compliance with this provision in the polling station visited. This helped to guarantee secrecy of the vote. 4. Voter turnout. Voting in the polling station observed was well attended in the morning, but the pace slow in the afternoon. 5. Voting processes. Overall turnout were orderly and calm, and voters cast their ballot peacefully without major incidents. The mission found that, in general, voting procedures were followed by polling station officials. An average of 4 candidates, delegates, that is agents, were present at each polling station. The majority of delegates or agents were from the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, the New Nigerian People's Party, and the Labour Party. 6. Women participation. Gender equality is mandated by the Nigerian Constitution. Women political participation is enshrined in the Electoral Act and relevant international instruments ratified by Nigeria. The mission found out on voting day, women voters were well mobilized. They represented 23.3% of the members of the polling station observed, 21.1% of the delegates of the candidate running for office, and 11.31% of the domestic observers met in the polling station by the mission. Assistance to persons living with disability or vulnerable persons Persons living with disability or vulnerable person were assisted during the voting processes by the person on their choice and on members of the polling station. This is a step forward in terms of ownership of the electoral process and democratic culture. 8. Polling staff. The mission notes that polling staff were generally trained in voting procedures. Candidate delegates. The International Police Chaplain found that candidate, delegates, or agents were able to freely exercise their mission in the polling station observed. This is a sign of political maturity that contributes to the normal function of the polling station. Domestic and international election observation mission. The mission welcomed the contribution of domestic and international observation mission to the electoral process. This mission contributes to the strengthening of democratic gains and the rule of law. Security. The mission noted that the discreet presence of the security force in most of the polling centers visited allow for peaceful conduct of the voting. Closing and counting. The mission found that 70% of the polling station observed closed at legal time of 4 p.m. The remaining 30% were late in closing. The counting and posting of results were public and in accordance with the Electoral Act. Conclusion. The International Police Chaplain congratulates Nigerian people, the central government, political actors, and all stakeholders in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It urged them to continue to work to preserve peace and stability in order to consolidate democracy and the rule of law, especially in a challenging socio-political environment. The mission welcomes the good collaboration between the various international missions. Likewise, it commends the quality of the exchange it had with the national actors. Finally, it makes the following recommendation. Recommendation number 1, to the central government. Take the necessary measures for greater participation of civil society in the entire electoral process. To INEC, continue interactions with candidates and party to build confidence, which in turn will strengthen the social fabric, strengthen the capacity of election staff. To the candidate and political actors, use legal channel in the event of challenges. Favor political dialogue in all circumstances to perpetuate social justice, social peace. Ensure a better training and representations of their delegates and agents and militants in the polling stations. To the civil society, pour resources for optimal observation of electoral process. Continue civic education and citizen awareness to strengthen inclusive participation. This press statement is signed today in Abuja, first day of March 2023, by Ambassador Johannes M. Makovia, the International Police Chaplain Sustainable Development and Law Enforcement African Coordinator, Head of International Police Chaplain Electoral Observation Mission in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.